I would like to welcome to our studio today Ron Antevy, CEO of eBuilder. Welcome, Ron.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
On behalf of the Entrepreneurs Organization of South Florida, I'd like to congratulate you for earning your prestigious rank on the Inc. 5000 list.
Thanks.
As being one of the fastest growing privately held companies in the United States. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
So tell us a little bit about eBuilder.
Okay, so eBuilder is a software company, and we develop construction management software to help facility owners, large institutions, manage their construction projects. We work with many large facility owners such as hospitals and schools and governments, and really help them reduce the cost of their construction by giving them a tool to better manage their capital projects.
Interesting. What motivated you to launch this business?
Well, my brother actually launched the company, and both he and I come from the construction industry and saw an opportunity. The construction industry is a huge industry, and there's a lot of opportunity to improve the processes and eliminate waste and create better project outcomes. So we kind of saw that need and created a software company to address that need.
Great. What is your ultimate vision for the company?
Well, when we think about the construction industry in the last 50 years hasn't seen an improvement in productivity compared to every other industry. And our vision for the company is to improve productivity for the construction industry, is to really enable that improvement. There's trillions of dollars spent every year on construction, and what we'd like to do is, with our software and our process, if we can just eke out a little bit of improvement, that's billions of dollars. Those billions of dollars can be used for other things, better healthcare, better education, better roads, that kind of a thing.
Interesting. When the business was launched, was there a detailed business plan?
There was a plan, and the plan was, so my brother got his master's degree in construction management, and his master's thesis was ultimately became the business plan for the company.
Wow.
Now, that was back in the 90s, and the internet was just really starting to be talked about, and this is a cloud-based software. So we did have an initial plan, but as you might imagine, we changed that plan over the years, and we had to make a few changes along the way to really get to where we are today.
How were assumptions tested early on?
Spent a lot of time speaking with customers, prospective customers. I'm a big believer that you need to get outside of the office. You need to talk to the people that pay the bills, the customers,
Sure.
And find out what's going to sell, what makes sense. And so we did a lot of that early on.
Do you remember your first customer?
Our first customer is the Washington Suburban Sanitary District, and they're actually still a customer today.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. How did you establish credibility early on?
Early on, to establish credibility, what we did is we'd go out and promote, talk about the internet and talk about the possibilities, get out as much as we could on the speaking circuit, go to conferences, and really try to promote ourselves as thought leaders. So that by the time we were in front of a prospect, they said, okay, I saw you speak, or I've heard about your organization. So we did a lot of that early on.
Interesting. When the company was first launched, how was it financed?
It was bootstrapped, credit cards, a lot of borrowing money and from family, from my parents, and just trying to figure out how to make ends meet early on. Didn't take a salary for quite some time early on, so we financed it that way. The other interesting thing we did is we would get out and speak, or we would go to meetings where we would be paid to speak, and we would be paid our expenses for travel, and we take that travel expense money and use it to finance the company, and then put our travel on a credit card and kind of did it that way. So credit card financing too.
How about your growth? Were you able to finance your growth internally or You have to go outside for that.
Well, we started the company in '95. In 2000, we did take some outside money. We took an investment. What's interesting about that is it almost bankrupt the company, believe it or not, taking some money. We were bootstrapped until then. Suddenly we came into some money and we started to spend a little bit more, and it really didn't have a good effect on the company. But beyond that, we are self-funded and we grew on our own accord. We went through, there was the dot-com kind of growth phase and followed by the dot-bomb in 2001.
Sure.
And then we had a good growth spurt after that.
In your opinion, can a company outgrow its management's team's abilities?
Absolutely. We're about a $30 million company today, and we've evolved over time, and our team has had to evolve. And running a $1 million business, a $10 million business, a $30 million business, a $50 million business, it's a different skill set and requires some different team strengths. Mm-hmm.
Is it easier to lead a smaller company or a larger company?
It's a good question, and I think it's easier in some respects. I think as an entrepreneur, you want to, I'm a detail guy. I want everything to be just right. And in a small company, I could do that. I could be involved. I could talk to every customer. I could make sure everything's just the way I wanted. But you don't have the resources when you're a small company. So smaller, you can do things more your way, but you have less resources. Bigger company, you have many more resources, but you have to rely on your team, and you have to recognize that your role isn't to actually do those things anymore. It's to get the right people in the seats to do the things that need to be done.
Of course. What is the most unusual or creative sales tactic that you've ever deployed?
Well, unusual or creative? I think that it's not so unusual in and of itself, but we, about 10 years ago, recognized that we're really looking for a needle in a haystack. We're trying to find a person in a multi-billion-dollar organization that's really the buyer of our software. So we make tons and tons of phone calls, and we try everything in the book to get in front of that person, because half of our battle is to get in front of our prospect. So we make in an average month with our team 20 or 25,000 phone calls, and to find that person, if you will, within these companies. So that's really what's propelled our whole business forward is that process.
Okay, so you're dialing for dollars, you're making 20, 25,000 calls a month.
Mm-hmm.
You finally identify the person, you connect, you make a presentation. Do you ever say, no, I'm not going to do business with you?
We say that all the time, funny enough. The last thing we want to do, and we say it all the time to our customers and our prospects, we're not going to do business with you if we can't really help you. Because like many industries, it's a small industry. People talk to one another. We're all about improving outcomes, and if we can't improve the outcomes for someone that we're talking to, we're going to tell them that up front. We have customers that said, you tried to disown us during the sales process. You kept pushing us away, and it's like you didn't want to go out with us, kind of a thing. So we do that as part of our process, and we find that it works well so that we can find the right customer.
Great. What is the toughest decision you ever had to make in the last several years?
Well, there have been a few tough decisions, but I think a tough decision we made about 10 years ago is we serve the construction industry, and we would sell some contractors and some architects and some subcontractors and some facility owners, and we thought we could serve the entire industry, and our business wasn't really growing the way we wanted it to. We made a decision about 10 years ago that we're only going to sell hospitals and a certain kind of hospital. And we're not going to sell to any of these other groups. And internally, that was a very tough decision for people to understand, because especially in sales. But everyone in the company said, we're going to go out of business. There's not enough hospitals out there for us to sell our software. That decision, in hindsight, began us on a growth curve where we started to grow 30, 40%. Now we've expanded our market since then, but that was a very, very tough decision that we made at the time, not knowing if it was going to work out.
Sure, sure. You have a very impressive company and you're a very seasoned entrepreneur. I would like to make an investment of $1 million in your company. How would you deploy those funds?
In our model, we have many of these very large facility owners that manage their projects. And so today we have $150 billion of active construction projects in our system. And I think if I took $1 million, what I would invest it in is figuring out how to monetize or make use of that data. There's very powerful information about hospital construction, school construction, very detailed information. And so you could benchmark, you could use that to do some sort of prescriptive design and figure out how should we build the next facility based on all this great information that we have. So I'd probably use that money to almost build another business within eBuilder.
Very interesting. So I'd like to give you, for the next couple minutes, some magical powers.
Okay.
You now have the ability of going back, all the way back to day one of your company, up till current. You could reverse any decision that you made. What would you change?
Well, the journey's been fun. So, I mean, I'm happy with how it all went, but there are decisions that it took me 10 years to figure out the right way to go. So I'd probably go back in time and do some of the things I did right earlier on. They're all around sales and marketing. What I think a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in technology, we get focused on the technology. Mm-hmm. We get focused on the problem that we're trying to solve. And we don't learn or study enough of the sales and marketing process. And really, it's the sales and marketing process that propelled our growth as a company, that got us onto the Inc. list. So I would go back in time and I would focus very much on those sales and marketing decisions that I sort of neglected early on. That's probably what I would do.
Great. So you only have another minute or two of magical powers.
Okay.
And now you're looking into a crystal ball. And I'd like for you to tell me, over the next 5 years, how will the business climate change and how will it affect your business?
Well, I think that construction right now is on an upswing. So we are tied sort of to the construction industry. But I think in the next 5 years, more and more facility owners are going to want to have tighter control over their construction projects. Our average customer, as an example, spends $50 million every year on construction. And the funds are becoming tighter and tighter. I think that's a trend that's happening. So they need a way to manage that better. So I see great opportunity. As I look forward, I see more and more what we call serial owners, serial builders, having a need for the software that we provide.
Great. No more magical powers.
It was fun.
So, what one word describes you as an entrepreneur?
Determined.
Do you think entrepreneurs are born or made?
I think they're made. I think your upbringing, I think your maybe what you've seen growing up might impact your entrepreneurial abilities, but I don't think you're born. I think you're made.
How do you define success?
Well, earlier in my career, I defined success with specific milestones. I want to hit this much revenue, this much profit, have this many employees. It was things like that. Today, the way I define success is seeing people in my organization that have grown tremendously and knowing that I helped be part of that process. to me is the definition of success. And also helping others, whether it's charitable or mentoring others, seeing other people that are starting businesses that come for mentorship or advice. That to me is how I define success, having the opportunity to do that.
So that's great. So where do you go to when you're looking for advice or guidance, or you want to brainstorm an idea, or you want to problem solve something? Where do you go?
Well, I have a couple of folks that have mentored me. I think that's very, very important to have a mentor or two. I'm also part of Vistage,
Sure.
which is a peer group, and I lean heavily on other CEO peers for advice as well. So those are the two main things. And I read a lot and try to keep up on what's happening out there and try to learn as much as I can.
What was the last book that you read?
It was the last book that I read was the 4 Obsessions of an Extraordinary Executive by Patrick Lencioni. And he has a number of books, and I enjoy. I've read that book multiple times, but I read that recently.
Putting you on the spot, what are those 4 obsessions? Do you recall?
Oh boy, you're really killing me. It's to provide clarity, to get alignment, to provide clarity, to repeat over communicate the message, and I can't remember it.
Close enough. Close enough. Tell me something super fun or super cool that you did, either personally or professionally.
Well, when I was in college, to help pay my way through college, I became a DJ, and so I was a DJ. I earned my living doing that. I got into music, really loved music, and what that all culminated into is I made 3 records.
Wow.
Sang on the records, produced the records, and one of them got a little bit of airplay, radio play down here in South Florida.
Wow.
So that was kind of fun.
What style of music?
It was dance, club dance kind of music.
Wow.
In the 80s.
Nice. What would you say the boldest decision, the boldest move you ever did in your professional life?
I think the decision to really narrow our focus and only go after these few targets was a very bold decision at the time. I think the decision to join my brother John and for us to work together and build this company was a bold decision. Prior to that, I had a great job, had a steady paycheck. I was kind of on my way up the corporate ladder. I had security, and I sort of threw all of that away and said, I'm gonna go for it.
If I say 2 words, trust and respect, what does that mean to you?
Well, they're very important to me. Trust is critical. With trust and loyalty within my company is critical, and with respect. Having respect for each person within the company, customers, having respect for one another, both important words to me.
Final question. Tomorrow morning, you wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Magically, your company is gone. What's the next company you're going to get involved in?
Well, I love the concept of subscription-based software for business. And there are so many opportunities out there. I think I'd find another cloud-based business, get involved. I think the data that I mentioned within our own space, but in general, I think there's massive opportunity today to do things with data that didn't exist before. And I would pick one of those areas and probably start another business around that.
Fantastic. It has been an absolute pleasure having you in our studio today. Thank you so much. And again, congratulations.
Thanks so
on being
much.
One of the fastest growing companies in the United States.
It's my pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thanks very
Hope
much.
to see you soon. Be
Great.
well.
Thank you.